show. Got ourselves 6 games here, so we're going to really be stretching it out, making sure every single moment matters. So I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pal, my Thursday buddy, the baseball savant, Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing pretty well. Early slate didn't go great, but great thing about Wednesday and Thursday is you got another shot at it a few hours later.
Yeah, whenever I hear you boys tilting over the earliest slate, it always makes me happy because I can never physically play them with the times they are on the West Coast, and have to just jump into the Four Corners video every morning. And it seems like they go terribly more often than not, but I might just be imagining that as an impartial third party. But early slates seem like a tough business.
It's not any tougher than any other slate. I don't do well on them for whatever reason, so it's probably just me remembering wrong or something, just some sort of cognitive bias that I have. But yeah, I feel like I don't do well on early slates, but night slates, I'm better at those, I think.
Yeah, so I guess we have a night slate in front of us. We also have a main slate in front of us that is sized like a night slate. Just 6 games today, so we're going to really take our time with it. And let's do a little plug first up front here. We're going to have a couple plugs, actually. We have an exciting new sponsor I'll talk about in a little bit once we get some more people into the room. But if you want to get part of that Osmo Plus package, all the data that we use here on all the shows that we talk about in the deeper dive, on the strategy show in the morning, on Live Before Lock, of course, on the Four Corners, we're all using the same data from Osmo, and that's all comes to you with an Osmo Plus membership. So go right now, use the promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month of Osmo Plus. Get all that data right at your fingertips. Top Stacks tool, a thing that Jake uses right for his lineup builds. A lot of things that will make you better, just like Jake. So go check it out now. Jake, what's your favorite feature on the website that's part of Osmo Plus?
It's tough. I mean, so my favorite collaboration of everything is probably the Top Stack tool. Like if I was hand building, and even for not hand building, like the Top Stack tool would be something easy. I think you could put it in a pretty competitive lineup just by looking at teams that are going over and under owned. So that's probably my favorite collaboration of the tools. But I don't know. I mean, the projections, getting the projections in MLB from the number 1 player in the world is also pretty nice, pretty helpful. But that's also factored into the Top Stack tool, and then I don't know. Probably my favorite thing is just ownership projections for every sport, because I think that's something you probably need to become competitive long term in any sort of DFS sport.
Yeah, and that tends to be the thing, too, that people tend to get the wrong the most, I feel like. There's always people who pop in to the various videos we do, and they're like, yeah, so-and-so is going to be really highly owned. Like somebody, and this isn't being mean or anything, it was just somebody who was like, yeah, Trent Thornton's going to be really highly owned. Like, that's not how ownership works at all. There's no reason why that would be. And maybe that has changed throughout the course of the last few hours, but I'm going to say no. That's a thing that you should just get an extra set of eyes on, and the Osmo ownership projections are the best ones. And yeah, Trent Thornton's still not owned, by the way. So if you want to play him, he's under 5%. So go after that, I guess. But Jake, let's go here into the pitchers as we always do up front, and let's talk about the top pitcher on the slate. Who, well, I guess you could kind of debate this point. The top owned pitcher right now and the top projected pitcher is Garrett Cole. I've been on Team Cole all day. Earlier in the morning, it looked like Kershaw was going to be the number 1 owned guy industry-wide. Now it's gone to Cole, at least on most of the sites. And I am on board with him. I think he's in a really good spot here. I think the thing with him, too, is the strikeout ability is so high for him. He's got a 35.7% K rate going back to last season. It's even higher this year. He's up to a 37.3% K rate on the year, 15.8% swinging strike rate. So all the stuff you want to see is there for him. Struggles a little bit with power, as it seems like most of the Houston pitchers do, but the strikeout ability is there in a meaningful way, even against Cleveland, who is a team that doesn't strike out a ton. What are you feeling about Garrett Cole here, and are you riding with him as your number 1 pitcher?
He probably won't be my number 1 pitcher, but he's going to be right up there. I mean, I hope I get close to the same amount of Cole as I do Kershaw. I think they project really similarly for us. And Cole's the better pitcher for DFS. We've seen Kershaw be a great pitcher for years now, so not to say that he's a bad pitcher or anything, but he doesn't have quite the strikeout upside that Cole does, even in a tough matchup or a tougher matchup when you compare the two. So I get it if Cole's your number 1 guy. It's only $600 difference on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it is a $300 difference, so you're kind of splitting hairs here. And when in doubt, I think going with the talent, especially if there's an ownership discount you get, I think that's a pretty favorable long-term strategy.
I mean, Cole goes deep into games too. And one thing that Adam pointed out, which I didn't even realize, but it is really noteworthy, going against lefty batters, which he should be facing a good amount of today because of the amount of switch hitters they have and just general lefty bats like Kipnis and Naquin down at the bottom of the order there. Cole has a 41% strikeout rate versus lefties going back to the beginning of last year. That is an insane number to have sustained over 700 batters he's faced.
Yeah, absolutely absurd numbers. Lofty and I were going through him this morning on the strategy show, and he's got a 40+% K rate against lefties again this season. And it's not like he's too bad against righties. I think he's at 34% this season as well. So just an elite arm, one of the best strikeout pitchers in all of the MLB. And yeah, it's a tough matchup, but it's not like he can't overcome this. We just saw Verlander overcome it in a huge way the other night.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's just a spot here where Cleveland is a tough team, but you've got getting a little more strikeouts in there with Franmil Reyes and also getting Puig in there, who's not a great strikeout guy, but is probably a little bit more strikeout prone than some of the other Cleveland hitters who've been in the lineup. Yeah, I really don't see any flaws here. And we'll talk more about Cleveland too later on, because I know some people are probably wanting to go with some leverage stacks against Cole, and I'm not seeing that so much, but I do think there should be more strikeouts here than usual for Cleveland. Let's talk about the competitive price guy who you mentioned, Clayton Kershaw. He is going to be similarly owned industry-wide, higher owned in some spots, because on Yahoo, Cole is kind of untenably expensive. You can still make it work, but he is really high priced there. But Kershaw going to be a little bit over 30% owned on DK. A really low implied run total against him, 3.2 implied runs for San Diego. I would be scared going to Kershaw here because San Diego, even though they're not great, they do give you some strikeouts. You do have a couple guys who are really mashing the ball. Tatis Jr. now over a 177 WRC plus on the year. Machado at a 170 going back to last year versus left-hand pitchers. Hunter Renfroe also has a 312 ISO. So these are guys I think are inclined to at least probably take, I don't know, I think maybe like one home run or two at least out of these guys. Seems like a decent possibility here. But Kershaw's still a very safe pitcher, just a one whip on the year. What are you doing with Kershaw? I think you implied that you're going to be with your ownership on Cole as well.
Yeah, I love Kershaw as well. I think he's probably the cash game option, just a little bit of a safer matchup, a lower implied total against him compared to Cole. A decent strikeout spot against San Diego. I think they're top 10 in the MLB versus lefties this season. And even assuming that they roll out probably seven lefties here, you still get the pitcher spot. You still get a bunch of high strikeout guys like Will Meyer, Renfroe, Tatis. Like, there are some guys here with some serious swing and miss. And so even though Kershaw isn't a great strikeout pitcher at this point in his career, he's still about at 25% for the season. Really respectable. Actually, I think he's at 26, but a respectable number nonetheless. And he's still a very, very good pitcher. So let's see, 10-7 here on DraftKings. I think that's a perfectly fine price. I'm playing a lot of him in tournaments, and he's the guy I would play in cash.
Yeah, I think in cash he does seem a little bit safer, given that he's not really giving that power up that Cole has, and also in a park which should limit it slightly more than Cleveland's park will. But yeah, I'm just not crazy about Kershaw. I got more of him than I would have wanted. So to be like, I am with the field on him at least. I think actually might be a little bit over it. But I think I just don't like him quite as much as Cole. And really the reason that I went to Kershaw as much is because I just have so much Cole that I feel like you have to have the guy in the same price point. But I just think he's a less exciting play, and I think has a little more power going against him potentially. I think those are things that if you were going to tiebreaker, if you were doing single entry tonight or a 3-max, I'd want to have more Cole than Kershaw.
Yeah, it's hopefully pretty easy even for me. It's like I said, splitting hairs between the two. There's a lot of positives going for both of them. Cole, just the immense talent, and then Kershaw, really solid matchup. Him being at home helps. Him being a bigger favorite as well matters. Actually, they're about the same now. I think the Dodgers have dropped just a little bit. Maybe that lineup wasn't great according to Vegas. It actually doesn't look like a great lineup for the Dodgers, but still should be strikeouts on both sides here. But yeah, I wouldn't, like, if someone was like, I'm going with Cole in my single entry, I'd be like, yeah, that's a great play. And same thing with Kershaw. I think I'm going to have the overwhelming majority of my lineups will have one of those two guys in tournaments. And you can even make good lineups with both of them, I noticed, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, there was one Reds lineup I had going against Fried that I noticed worked really well with both Cole and Kershaw. And it seems like a tough one to make happen, but it is possible on the slate, even though this is a shorter slate. That could be certainly one contrarian approach to get there if you wanted to give that a shot.
Yeah, you can do it. I thought I added, I thought I increased the total salary on Fantasy Crunch or something because I saw Cole Kershaw lineups coming up when I was doing crunches before the show, but I mean, you can actually do it, and it's not even that crazy, especially when you factor in the team you might have to stack with them would be the Reds, and that's getting leverage off the cheap chalk pitcher as well.
Yeah, I agree. The Reds actually, I think, are a pretty interesting team. We'll talk more about them in the back half of the show, as well as all the other stacks. But you have a bunch of guys there who've hit lefties really well, and even though Fried has done a good job limiting damage, I think there's some signs here, a pretty high whip, pretty high batting average allowed, maybe a bit unlucky for Fried, but I don't think it's a terrible spot for Cincinnati, but we'll get to that. Right now, let's do our quick plug here because we do have a sponsor. If you're watching the screen right now, you can see on the upper right-hand corner, Fantasy Draft is back here in the Awesemo fold. And you know why they're back in? Because they're doing rake-free daily fantasy, and it's here every day, available only on Fantasy Draft. So now you can play your favorite contests rake-free on Fantasy Draft, where 100% of entry fees are paid to contest winners. For a limited time, Fantasy Draft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So go to fantasydraft.com and use the promo code AWESEMO to claim your 7-day free trial today. So go get in there. They're trying a different model here. So all the tournaments are rake-free, but you're paying a monthly payment based upon the amount of dollars you're spending on your entries. And Jake, I guess, why would this be a benefit for the people out there?
As far as the rake goes, or the lack of rake?
The rake-free daily fantasy at Fantasy Draft.
Yeah, so if you're casual, I mean, when there's a rake on a tournament, that means a percentage of your entry fee on some sites, 15, 16%, and it's different for different tournaments. That money is going straight to the site. So what Fantasy Draft is doing with the rake-free head-to-heads is if it's a $25 head-to-head, for example, that means there's $50 total. Usually 10 to 15% of that would go to Fantasy Draft, but in this case, the winner would get $50. So it doesn't seem like much, but if you're playing high stakes, if you're playing a lot, if you're playing every day, Fantasy Draft says you can lose up to 30% of your bankroll to rake, and that's huge. So rake-free head-to-heads, there's not much you're going to find better in the industry than that.
Yeah, so go check out that rake-free daily fantasy at Fantasy Draft, the only place you're getting rake-free fantasy, daily fantasy every day. So go use that promo code AWESEMO to claim your free 7-day trial. So you'll be paying double no rake. You'll be paying the least rake you could possibly pay for that 7-day trial. So use that promo code AWESEMO right now. And thank you to Fantasy Draft for being a sponsor of Live Before Lock.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, hey, we're moving up in the world, Jake. We finally got a sponsor after watching the deeper dive, bathing in all that Yahoo money for years.
Yeah.
That's actually how ads work. They just go directly to the hosts, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Who else are you getting here at pitcher, Jake? Actually, well, we want to jump all the way down to the guy I got a lot of, like a stupid amount of, and I like him, and he's the kind of guy I would like. Let's just talk about him. Asher Wojciechowski, depending upon. I've heard a variety of pronunciations on his name. Not terribly chalky. You can have some ownership on him. Not the greatest projection, but this year in his major stint has been unreal for him, at least versus righties. He's had a 0.9 whip, a 31.1% K rate overall versus righties, a 0.5 whip, a 41% K rate overall. Numbers that seem like they're due to regress. But he's also had a 16.3% swinging strike rate. And Jake, here's where it gets fun. He's been terrible versus lefties in a very comparable sample size to his righty one. A 1.5 whip and a 7.2 xFIP, along with a 6.9% home run rate and a 360 ISO allowed to lefty batters. So this is the ultimate, I don't know, like he's either going to get completely rocked or he'll survive the lefties and get a ton of strikeouts along the way. I am more inclined to have more Asher Wojciechowski than not because he just comes up a lot for me with the randomizer up on him. And I'm okay with it because he's kind of a beast with what we've seen so far. What are you doing with old Asher?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm going to have some of him. Looking at my ownership or my exposures right now, he is coming in as my fourth highest owned pitcher. So I'm right now pretty easily over the field on DraftKings. You'd, of course, be a guy I would consider on Fantasy Draft as well. But I got to about 30% right now. I wonder if his ownership's going to creep up even more in the next ownership update as he's gotten talked up, I'm sure, throughout the day. So 16% swinging strike rate, I think a 38.5% chase rate, just some really solid numbers in terms of getting swings and misses. And you're going up against a team that, yeah, it's not the best strikeout matchup, but it still is a pretty good one here against Toronto. He's a home favorite for $7,100 on a short slate that doesn't have a lot of mid-tier options. I mean, unless you consider Flaherty a mid-tier option, but he's kind of in that upper mid-tier. So $7,100 I think is a pretty fair price, especially when factoring in the run total against him that's still at 5.6 that you're seeing on the screen. He's, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, he's been good against righties. He's been not good against lefties, but I'm playing quite a bit of Wojciechowski here. Woj, we'll just call him Woj.
Yeah, the MLB Woj. He's going to drop a Woj bomb today one way or another, and either in the form of a deuce on the floor or in terms of a really good pitching game. The thing, too, that I think makes him pop up so much, the ownership for Toronto is out of control, especially on DraftKings. They're going to be, I think, the top owned stack. Let me just confirm that. At least that top five. Yeah, the top ownership for the top five by a pretty decent margin, 18% ownership aggregate for that top five. Next after that is Tampa Bay with 14.6. So that is a lot of ownership going to these guys. And if Wojciechowski can strike them out and that ownership is where we're expecting it to be, that's really good leverage on the field. And also a pitcher whose price point works and is appealing. The one concern I have, though, is we just saw another, I would say a comparable guy, maybe not to the same degree, but Jose Urquidy yesterday, boy, he got his ass kicked like hard, just stomped in a variety of ways. And after that, I'm a little bit worried with the amount of Wojciechowski I have today, given that they're the same price point. They kind of grade similarly to me, but I'm still doing it today.
Yeah, Urquidy, he was quite the disappointment last night. So he ruined a lot of my lineups, but you kind of knew that going in that it was a tough matchup. He's not Garrett Cole, he's not Justin Verlander, so tough for him to overcome. But this is not a bad spot here for Wojciechowski. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see what this kid's made of, I'm sure, in his next few starts, but it's been an exciting start to his career. And if you've been on him in his last couple starts, I don't think there's any reason to get off of him here. He's done nothing but good things so far.
Yeah, but there are some signs of bad things to come with the power that he's allowed. And being in Baltimore, too, it's not going to help out that much. An 84-degree day right now, it looks like, or at least as of like an hour or so ago. So it is pretty warm in a positive hitting park, one of the best power parks in the league. So some reasons to like Wojciechowski and some reasons to like Toronto, but Toronto's ownership just feels too high. I'm sure we'll talk about that more in the back half too, but a lot of freaking ownership for Toronto.
Where'd you say they rank in the top stack tool?
They are the number one owned right now based on the top five. I don't know if that's the same for the overall ownership. Yeah, they're still the top overall owned as well.
They've got actually a really good chance of being the top stack too. I didn't even realize that. Yeah. I'm surprised I'm not getting to more Toronto here. This is interesting. I'm getting to some, but yeah, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I like Woj, especially if you're going to get kind of that reverse correlation with the field as well. He starts going up the leaderboards and the Toronto bats keep dropping. The people that play Toronto bats. Makad says ownership update.
Oh, okay. There we go. Check that out now and see if anything changed here. Hopefully Woj has stayed where he's supposed to be and not gone too crazy with his ownership. All right, so we're up to 21. I don't think that's going to change things too much.
It's going to change a little bit for me. Yeah, so I was at 28 when he was at 15. It'll change a little bit. I'll probably get closer to 25 than 28 or something like that. Maybe closer to 21, but he will still pop for me.
So the ownership for Toronto actually went up too. So that is a real do or die spot today for that Toronto Baltimore side, because all the ownership it seems like is going to be on that game. Like you're talking combined 40% ownership between Toronto and Wojciechowski.
Man, that seems crazy to me.
That is a crucial battleground. Or I guess you could avoid it entirely, but one side will probably end up doing well. I guess if either side, like if Wojciechowski gets like, let's say 8 Ks and gives up 4 runs or something, he's probably worthless. And maybe Toronto's not that worthwhile either in that process. So maybe that's what you're hoping for if you're avoiding that equation entirely, I guess.
I mean, yeah, that could be. Man, why does everybody love Toronto so much? I guess we love them too. Like Alex likes them, but interesting. I guess I'll be different tonight.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's the only move here on a slate of this size, and now we pray. I think too, Bichette's limited sample size numbers kind of drive up Toronto a bit. I think because they still have 6 guys above league average in strikeout rate, and Bichette's only at 9% and only 11 at bats so far versus a righty, so that's going to come up. I think it could be a better strikeout spot than it looks like for Wojciechowski, but we'll find out when he gives up 10 runs in about an hour.
Could very well be the case.
Who else you get to? Are you getting to any Danny Salazar at a similar price point? A guy who had a 33% K rate the last time he was in Major League Baseball. He's been out for, I actually didn't even look up why. He was injured, I presume, for a year and then was in the minors for some rehab stints.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. But no, I didn't get to Salazar. At least on DraftKings, I don't think that that's necessary. I think he's more in play on FanDuel. I found him coming up a little bit for 6,500 over there. But two pitcher sites, I think he's kind of priced out of play, at least on DraftKings and FantasyDraft. Yahoo, he's $30, so you can make a case over there. But it's just a really, really poor matchup here with Houston, team that doesn't strike out, a team that has power. And a pitcher who, while he's always had strikeout upside, he's always also struggled with walks and giving up hits. And that's not really a good MO to have going up against Houston here.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think he's going to attack the plate. I mean, based on what I looked up from those numbers before with the strikeout stuff, I feel like if you're going after strikeouts versus Houston, that's a really tough spot to be in. So I don't mind the concept of Salazar, but yeah, pitching only 69 pitches in his last start in minor league baseball. Probably not going to be in there long enough. And at that price, I think you could probably just have to go to Woj. Or you can go up to Jack Flaherty, who I assume is a guy you'll have some of, Jake. But what are you feeling about Jack Flaherty today?
Yeah, I do have quite a bit of Jack Flaherty. I just think he's a really good pitcher. He's getting a good amount of ownership right now. So it's not like he's going overlooked or anything. But you're seeing this total drop basically all day. 4.5, that's one of the lower totals you'll see on Alex's totals on the Osmo lineups page, and basically the exact lineup we expected from this morning. So you're seeing 5 lefties in there, but one of them's Lester. So, I mean, he should get a free strikeout there, or 2, depending on how many times he faces him. And then you've got some righties in here with at least the ability to strike them out in Baez, Contreras, Bryan, Castellanos. Guys that are good hitters, but also the lefties outside of Rizzo aren't that worrisome for Flaherty. So $8,600. I'm playing a lot of Flaherty. I'm over the field right now. Where are you at?
Actually, let me double check it because I had to change some things around. Also, in the premium Slack right now, which again is a great part of an Osmo Plus package, use that promo code Live Before Lock if you want to join all the boys in the premium Slack right now, dropping all sorts of news and debating the finer points of a variety of things, including Adam's genitalia earlier. It's a big topic of conversation on the premium Slack for some reason. Go check that out. Use that promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month. DA186 is saying that Salazar is only going to go 3 to 4 innings as a modified opener per Terry Francona. So there we go.
Okay, so maybe don't play him on FanDuel then. I did not see that. I don't know if Alex saw that. That's pretty worrisome, especially for a site you're looking for a quality start.
Yeah, I would say it's not looking good to play Danny Salazar today, but it'll be interesting to see how his form shakes out because he's going into the Lions' den against the Astros to give up just have insane numbers for strike and pitching, a 115 WRC plus on the year, just an 18.5% K rate, almost 200 ISO. They are not a team you want to be going again in your first start in like a year and a half. That's just mean to poor Danny Salazar.
Yeah, they should have held him back a couple days.
Yeah, give him a shot. Go put him against Miami. See how he does there. Jake, who else are you getting here in this price book? Because I feel like these are the main guys I got. Oh, actually, we should talk about Max Fried. We should talk about 2 parts of this. People are concerned about the weather down in Atlanta. How are you feeling about the weather and the light rain that's predicted there right now?
No concern right now. I do not see a postponement risk in the Osmo.com premium projections. So for me, that says all systems go for that Atlanta game. And I mean, the ownership is the worrisome part for me. So he's right now on the last update, he was at
43.
Yeah, man. So 40+% on DraftKings, and man, that's going to be difficult to overcome for me. Like, there are some decent bats on the Reds. There's Suarez here, of course. We love him against lefties. I like Senzel. The Reds are cheap. They offer a lot of leverage. They allow you to get in Cole and Kershaw. So I think I'm going to be probably around the field on Fried, but I'm also going to be pretty heavy on Cincinnati, it's looking like.
Yeah, Cincinnati does jump out. It's interesting because you have these guys who are just really good at hitting lefties. Senzel in a 80 at-bat sample size so far in the majors has been raking lefties, the 168 WRC plus, 366 batting average, a 282 ISO. Then you also have Suarez in there, who's Jake mentioned, Jake's boy, 268 ISO, 157 WRC plus, 303 batting average versus a lefty. Philip Irvin, too, who I didn't realize, just a murderer of lefties, too, with a 283 ISO, 159 WRC plus. And the only guy in there who's really, I guess, not even a bad hitter, but just not a proven one, is Aquino in there, who is $2,700 and still going to be 12% owned. and you can take your shots there. I think he was supposed to be a decent power guy in the minors, but not anything super crazy about to write home about. But that Reds lineup, you can stack it up in a bunch of different ways, and there's just no ownership, it looks like, on them.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So when we talk about stacks, I'm sure we'll mention them a couple times, and they allow you to just fit in whatever you want, plus a stud pitcher, or maybe even two, depending on how many Reds you want to stack here.
Yeah, I think the thing too, I guess let's close the loop on Fried, because I'm going to be under the field on him. He's so highly owned where he didn't really pop up a lot for me. He projects well from a value standpoint. I mean, he's getting almost a 3x projection, which nobody at pitcher is getting on the slate. I could see why people would go there. And his numbers just confuse me. So he's got a 3.5 xFIP on the year. He's still giving up a 1.4 whip, a 280 batting average, and still giving up some power, not a lot, but the fly ball rate's been really down, like a 22% fly ball rate, which is extremely low. It seems like he's either due to get better in terms of the production he's given up, like maybe he's gotten unlucky. This sounds stupid now that I'm saying it out loud, or he's due to have a bad day. Like, I don't know what it is, but his numbers don't make sense looking at them compared to what we usually see out of pitchers.
Yeah, it's hard to tell when that's the case. And we're still working with pretty small samples for Fried, but we know that he can miss bats, and it's a low-ish implied total against them. One of the lower ones as well, 4.5. You're seeing for the Reds on Alex's team totals here. So you're not only getting a cheap pitcher as a home favorite, but a guy that also has strikeout upside, a guy that can get you like 6, 7, 8 strikeouts if things go really well, and that's going to probably ruin the slate if that happens. So a pretty scary fade here at this kind of ownership. I don't think it's very likely that he kills you here for under 6K, so that's why I'm playing a bunch of him. But I also think if he does kill you, you're going to be in a really good spot if you do have some Reds. So again, multiple lineups for the win here. I would not want to make this decision with just a single lineup.
Also, fun fact, guess Anthony DeSclafani's ISO versus a left-handed pitcher.
Ooh, I think I looked this up. Isn't it like 230?
214. Yeah, you're in the range.
Yeah, I looked this up this morning.
So yeah, play all your Anthony DeSclafani as a hitter, not as a pitcher, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's get to dong picks in a moment, but I guess before we do that, Jake, I feel like the pitchers that we didn't talk about are, I assume, ones you're not going to have a ton of, but anybody else who we haven't hit on that you're getting a good amount of in your lineups?
Let me take a look here. I don't think so. No, I think we talked about Fried, we talked about Flaherty, Cole. What are you doing with Trent Thornton?
I'm not there. I think I saw somebody say that he's going to be on a pitch count too because he's coming back, and his numbers also just look terrible. A 1.5 whip and a 4.9 xFIP on the year. I actually would prefer to get Baltimore. I didn't get a ton of them because they were a little bit highly owned before. But yeah, I would rather go the other way than go to Thornton personally.
Yeah, I kind of ended up on the same place. I think there was a typo with him in the projections earlier this morning. So I saw him as being a really good value, and now it looks like maybe him and Wojciechowski were switched up in Alex's model or something. But yeah, 6,800 going up against Baltimore. I guess you could make a case for it, but he's not a good strikeout arm, and it is a worrisome total against him here, whereas Wojciechowski is a good strikeout arm, at least he has been so far, and you still got the high total, but I'd much rather go to the other side or just go down to Fried.
Yeah, and I think that is sort of the tournament logic to go to Thornton, is that if Wojciechowski busts and Fried somehow busts, and then you have Thornton and he's the last man standing, and he's going against a bad Baltimore team, like even though he's not good, they're also not good either. They haven't hit right-handed pitching well on the year, and this lineup they have in there isn't much better. I think if anything, they've gotten worse. But I would prefer to play the side where I think Thornton's not good, but I think from a tournament perspective, under 5% ownership, and you have these other guys who are going to be really highly owned next to him with Wojciechowski and Fried underneath him. That does seem like a spot where you can go to him or Brendan McKay, I guess, but that seems like an even thornier spot to go to, obviously.
Ooh, I would not go to McKay here. Not against the Red Sox.
So that leaves you with Thornton then.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm basically playing 5 pitchers today, and that is Cole, Kershaw, Flaherty, Fried, and Wojciechowski.
Yeah, that's about where I am as well. All right, let's get on to the dong picks here because, Jake, there's one important update in the dong sheet. Yes, well, I guess 2 technically. You didn't make a pick yesterday, but I did, Jake. And for the second straight week, a guy with a bear-based nickname got a home run for me with Pablo Sandoval going yard, the only guy who went yard in our picks yesterday after Pete Alonso, the polar bear, did it for me last Friday. So I don't know what to do because there's no bear-based nicknames on the slate, but to update people on the standings here. So in terms of percentage of picks correct, Emac still in first place, 23%. Josh in second place, 21.6%. Me ahead of Jake with 20.3% correct. And Jake just a bit behind with 20.2% correct picks. So I am now not in last place in one factor, and that's the one I choose to focus on, Jake.
I mean, fair enough. How did I go down in percentage from yesterday?
I don't think you went down. You were just where you were, and I went up. So you have 18 total dongs and 17 correct picks. I have 16 total dongs and 15 correct picks, but you've made 10 more picks than me.
Okay. You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I think technically I'm still in last because we said 2 out of 3 factors are the way that we'll decide the standings. So technically Josh is claiming leadership over you. And I think by those same standards, you should be claiming leadership over me. So I will go first then. Still technically in the not so great butt sniffing seat. And this is actually a tough slate for this game. I feel like the pick is going against Wojciechowski, but I love him so much. I'll let you go first because I think I need to see what you decide.
All right, let's see here. I'm updating my stuff. I will take. Let me see here. I will take Freddie Freeman.
Ooh, okay, that's a good pick. That is a good pick. Lefty matchup versus DeSclafani, a very profitable spot in general, which we'll talk about more. Yeah, it's a good pick. Damn it. All right. It's not that hot there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start hammering chalk. That's what people do when they get in last place.
I agree. That's the right move. I'm gonna go JD Martinez, even though Brendan McKay, a pretty decent pitcher, still getting up a 177 ISO, and JD's been a beast versus lefties, the 190 WRC plus over the last year and a 350 ISO. So go JD. He's hot too. I'll do the Sean V pick of the hot hitter.
He is hot.
He is hot. All right. And if anybody else filters in with their picks, we'll keep you guys updated. Just make sure we get these in. Freddie Freeman. Oh, you know who would have been a good one is Eugenio Suarez too.
I guess the other one I was going to take, but I'm playing a lot of Fried, so I almost don't want him to be hitting too many home runs tonight.
Oh, Josh is going to pick Freddie Freeman as his pick, but unfortunately that's now gone.
Suck it, Josh.
And EMAC 2 giving us the finger in the premium Slack. If you join the Awesome Mode Plus right now, you can see all the mean things that they say to us in chat during a show.
Very hurtful.
All right, well, those guys don't have replacements apparently.
That's all right. Matt Duffy's on the slate. If they want him, they can have him.
Yeah, or go to Chris Davis, an intriguing play.
Yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, why not? If EMAC really likes heavy set, mediocre hitters who have some degree of power, Chris Davis should be his pick.
Of course.
He's not really heavy set though, right? He's still in good shape, even though he sucks.
I'm sure he's in pretty good shape.
All right, well, we'll update you guys when those guys' picks come in, but let's talk about some of the stacks here. And of course, join us right now on Osmo Plus. Use that promo code Live Before Locks to get half off your first month. And one more quick plug for FantasyDraft because they are the sponsors of the show here, and we want to make sure they're happy. So go check out their rake-free daily fantasy because it's there and only there on FantasyDraft. And now you can play your favorite contest rake-free on FantasyDraft, where 100% of entry fees are paid to the contest winners. For a limited time, FantasyDraft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So go to FantasyDraft.com right now. That's FantasyDraft.com. Use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, to claim your free 7-day trial. So go check out our partners at FantasyDraft, especially if you're a newer DFS player. Go to the sites where the people are on a little bit less. At FantasyDraft, even though the rake-free stuff is getting them some attention, they're still dealing with less of these sharp players and the oodles of money they throw at the problem every single day.
That's right.
EMAC going with Anthony Rizzo as his dong pick.
Okay.
And
it's a good pick.
And Josh is just fluffing himself up in the meantime. Oh, going with Jesus Aguilar as his dong pick. So there we go.
Aguilar, why? Okay. I guess off cash.
That's the reaction.
Sure. Yeah,
that's a reaction Josh should always evoke with everything. Why? Why would you do that? God.
He's been on a tear, so maybe he's got the cheat code.
Yes, but no, you were Alvarez yesterday. That made me happy. Thank the sweet Lord Jesus. All right, Jake, let's go. Who's going to be your number one stack on the day? We've got a lot of guys. We've already talked at some depth about the number one owned stack overall in Toronto. Who is going to be your number one owned stack overall?
The Atlanta Braves are going to be right up there for me, going up against Descalfani, who just has real issues against lefties. So Freddie Freeman, the guy who's going to dong once or twice, he will be one of my highest exposed players. And then I just like how the stack sets up. Me and Lofty were taking a look at it this morning, and you've got Albies for 4,200, obviously another lefty there, good hitter. Acuna leading off 5,300, maybe gets less ownership than he should if the stack's going to be chalky, because people won't want to pay up as much righty because he's not going to project as like an elite value. Same thing with Donaldson for 4,300. Same thing with Duvall, but all these guys have power, hopefully hitting with runners on base, and then just a bunch of lefties sprinkled in here at positions that aren't super deep.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so here's the issue I have, and this is totally a mental block that I have, which could be really problematic today. Anthony DeSclafani, really terrible versus lefties. A 1.6 whip allowed, a 5.96 xFIP, so just let's say a 6 there. Giving up a 293 batting average, giving up a 44.8% hard contact, giving up a 277 ISO to lefty batters. I always see this with him. I always go like, yeah, let me get some lefties against him. And it almost never pans out for me the way that I hope. And they're actually going to be owned today. And I didn't go to DeSclafani either, but it gave me some degree of pause where I was just like, I'm tired of this happening to me every time. So I didn't get there as much as I thought I would. I'm with the field on Freeman. I think he's the one that jumps out. But I don't know, man. He just frustrates me. I just want to say that on the show, like a therapy session.
DeSclafani stinks, man. He can miss bats. That's it. But he's got some real issues versus lefties. I mean, we've known this for a while now. So, I mean, yeah, he probably trolls you often, but that's because you stack against him every game. So it's baseball. He's not going to work out every time.
True. And for what it's worth, DeSclafani's righty splits are really noteworthy. So if he does survive to lefties somehow, I mean, he's getting a good amount of them, and a couple of really good ones like Jake Sky, Freddie Freeman. But versus righties, he actually is pretty good with the one whip, a 3.5 xFIP, and a 24.8% K rate, as well as getting that hard contact down as well. Just a 135 ISO. So he's not giving up power to righties. So if you are trying to make a tiebreaker there, or if you're trying to get to a full Braves stack, maybe fade one of the Acuna or Donaldson type guys and go to a Nenson Yarte, who's been hitting well, I think, or even a Camargo. I think Camargo's got a not terrible splits versus a righty. I think that could be one way to differentiate if you are going to go to Atlanta and if they end up being the top stack.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different ways to stack them up. That's why I love them so much. So a lot of people go into that Toronto-Baltimore game, and that's understandable, but I'm kind of taking a pretty big stand on the Atlanta Braves here. Josh's team that he never plays.
Yeah, he's got a very conflicted relationship with the Braves, it seems.
Yeah, he hates money. That's why. But he does love dong picks. That cannot be disputed.
He does. He's been bringing his A game to them over and over again. So I'm with you on Atlanta. I got a little bit less there than I probably thought I would have earlier in the day, but I can't argue the point. It's just making a personal choice today, I guess, if nothing else. Here's a team that I got a lot of with our projections that we have at Awesemo.com, which do come with that Awesemo Plus membership. So use that promo code Live Before Lock. If you want to go make some good lineups with actual high quality projections, go check it out now. Go to Awesemo.com/join if you want to get on the team. But Tampa Bay is a team who actually the ownership has come up for them quite a bit too. But they are an interesting team to me going against Cashner. Cashner does tend to limit full stack production. Only a 1.3 whip on the year. Still has a 4.9 xFIP though, and a 17% K rate. So those numbers are not the best. But he has kind of kept things in pocket. Are you getting to any Tampa Bay here against Cashner, especially the chalky pieces here? Because Choi, Pham, and Meadows are going to be pretty highly owned.
I'm not getting to a lot of them. I am getting, I'm looking through my lineups as I'm filtering them out, and I'm getting to, mini stacks against Cashner. It's not a great spot on a shorter slate because, it's a good spot, 5.8 implied total against Andrew Cashner. I get it, but it's not like you're getting a lot of leverage on them because a lot of people aren't going to Cashner. So that's why they're a little bit less appealing than some of these other spots. And Cashner doesn't get blown up that often. He gives up his 3-4 runs, but it's never not never, but it usually isn't the 8-run outburst in 2 innings and then you just get to feast on the bullpen type of thing. So I'm just going to some other spots. I am getting to I mentioned Matt Duffy because I actually see him in one of my top lineups right now, and I want to change that because he's garbage, but they're cheap for their implied total, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I was telling Jake before I got on the air where I'm trying to do a similar process to some of the smarter guys here on staff here and try to use things in my Excel sheet to try to get the lineups I want surfaced up. And that process led me to have an uncomfortable amount of Mike Zunino, who is already going to be uncomfortably highly owned with 30% ownership expected for him on DraftKings. The 2,600 price is a really good number for him, given that he does have power and he's going against a guy who does give up power. But Jesus, that is so much Zunino out there, and I'm going to be above the field on Zunino, and I am not a fan of that, Jake.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't like to go that heavy on a hitter. Are you still at over 50%?
I am out. I'm down to 50 flat. Yeah.
All right. I mean,
it's probably as good as it's going to get. I got some Austin Hedges in there, some Maldonado just to switch off. But yeah, no, I don't want to break the entire lineups because his price does make some things work.
Right. I mean, yeah, he's not a bad play. I just usually don't go that heavy on hitting.
And you were correct. you are doing the right thing, but he just happens a lot.
You got to do what the numbers give you, right?
Yeah, that's what smarter men than I have said, and unfortunately, I am now riding with them, and it makes you uncomfortable when you're a person who likes having that control of hand building, or at least the feel of having control. And no, if you're playing Zunino like I am, you are losing control fully.
That's all right. I mean, he's a $2,600 catcher on DraftKings. I'm assuming you're talking about, so there's nothing wrong with that.
He's got that power. He does have that power. That's what I will cling to today as I'm playing my 50% of Mike Zunino. Who is going to be your number 2 owned stack on the day?
Yeah, let's look at this. So Atlanta number 1. It looks like, oddly enough, Cincinnati's coming in at number 2 for me. Mm-hmm. Just a really, really good leverage spot. So like I said, this spot's not going to work out that often, but I think it's more like, I don't think Free just mows them down here all that often either. So if you can knock out this 40+% owned chalk pitcher on the 2-pitcher sites at least, that's really, really valuable, especially for how cheap they are. They don't need that much to pay off. So not only just 5-man stacks, but like 2- and 3-man stacks, I think are really appealing here because Freed's not a guy that goes super deep anyways, but if you can get him out, get him, not have him get a chance for the win and tack a couple runs on him, that's going to be huge for the rest of your lineup here.
Yeah, and everybody in the Cincinnati lineup besides Anthony DeSclafani is above a 102 WRC plus. I mean, excluding Aquino, who has just no sample size of note. But all these guys versus lefties, they can hit lefties really well. Some of them at an extremely high level. Eugenio Suarez, we talked about earlier. Nick Senzel has been doing it as well, and the aforementioned Phillip Ervin also doing it too. So these guys have been hitting pretty well versus lefties, and Fried is lefty. And you definitely make an argument though that Fried is due for some good luck because he has a 360 BABIP, 340 BABIP, which is pretty high, and that seems like that should come down a little bit. But I think it's hard to argue that Cincinnati isn't worth some exposure here because they're also just not owned. I mean, only Aquino is going to be owned, it looks like, for the most part.
It's weird that we haven't projected for low ownership. I don't really understand that because they're cheap. Usually these cheap stacks get pushed up in the optimizer because people want expensive pitching, but they're just not getting, I don't think, as much ownership as they should be getting based on how good of a leverage spot it is. Like, whereas Toronto is against Wojciechowski. So I don't know. I'm a little bit confused here, but I guess I'm glad.
Well, I think it's because if you look at the numbers, like you could see Suarez and Senzel are the 2 best projected guys in terms of overall points, and they're like about 2x and change value, but Fried's almost 3x value. So I think you're probably getting more Fried in Optimizer, and then you're getting less of these guys, even though the leverage is pretty obvious.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, let's go on to.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Fried has the lowest barrel percentage in baseball. Good luck, SJM says in chat. And I said, good luck to you. Thanks. But yeah, I mean, that's fine. But you're getting huge leverage, like I said, which is a huge part of MLB DFS. They're not very owned either. And we actually have some of their guys projecting as decent values. I don't know what's not to like based on being a tournament player.
Yeah, and even given, whatever barrels numbers, which are not something that I keep track of on my main data sheet, but still get up a 160 ISO to righties, which is not it's not great, but the fly ball rate is really low. I mean, 21.9% fly ball rate, 21.6% going back to last year. So he's keeping the ball down, but maybe there's some launch angle things Cincinnati's been working on. Maybe Trevor Bauer came over in the trade. He's like, all right, boys, here's how we turn this all around. And that's how it's all going to go down today.
Could be.
Who knows? Let's see who else do I have a good amount of. Actually, let's just talk about this team because I think they are worth hitting on. Boston going against Brendan McKay. I picked my guy for home runs from there, JD Martinez. I think Boston's pretty interesting. They're not really highly owned. They are at least going to get some ownership as mini stacks. I guess Mookie Betts has come up a bit. JD still not terribly highly owned, so it looks like a lot of one-off Mookie. I like the righties here in the spot. And McKay, even though he is good, he's only got a 1 whip on the year. He's certainly a highly regarded prospect. 3.9 xFIP, though, and has given up some power. And it seems like he's had some struggles overall, especially to righties. A 177 ISO allowed so far to righties. I'm okay going against McKay here, and I think a full stack is going to have no ownership. Are you going to have any full stacked Boston?
Yeah, for sure going to have some full stacks in Boston. They are the anti-optimizer play tonight with a lot of people, well, a ton of people actually, starting their lineups with one of Kershaw and Garrett Cole. And that's just going to make your projection a little bit lower if you're trying to fit in 5 guys. Their first 5 guys are all 5K or more, as you're seeing on the screen. So that's really difficult to stack. But if you're prioritizing hitters, at least in some of your lineups, I think that Boston should be a stack you're getting to. So, yeah, I got a bunch of Mookie, JD, and I always get those 2 guys. But, like, Bogarts and Chavis, I know, is way up there for me in double digits. So I just love them here against McKay. It's just a really, really tough spot for any pitcher, but especially a lefty going up against all these powerful righties.
Yeah, I would agree there. And yeah, and it's a park too where you can see the hitting starting to come around there in terms of the park factors. And yeah, I think it's a really nice spot for at least a few of these guys. And I really don't hate the idea of a full stack here because you can even get to guys like Michael Chavis down at the bottom who's got a 260 ISO going against lefties and is relatively cheap compared to at least that top 5. I think there's some ways to go here if you wanted to full stack them. And it is the highest implied run total on the day for them going against McKay. So it does seem like there should be more ownership there overall.
Yeah, I agree. It's just every single time it baffles me that these these stacks with the great chance of being the top stack are not the highest owned stacks. Even when it's Coors, it's weird.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's sometimes I feel like they just go under the radar, but it is odd on a 6-game slate that there aren't more people on Boston. And I think they're just trying to capture that Mookie Betts or JD production and hoping for the best. But definitely very possible that full stack gets wild there.
I hope so.
Brandon pinging us on a projection update. Thanks, Brandon. Everybody's trying to help us out.
This is a team show. This is produced by a handful of people. So thanks, guys. Makes us
takes a village, Jake. Yeah. That's what me and Hillary Clinton came up with when we wrote her book. It takes a village. All right, let's talk about another team then who feels a bit underowned for the opportunity going against a guy who's coming up from the minor leagues and hasn't pitched in the majors in over a year. Houston not getting much ownership going against Danny Salazar and a pretty low run total for them, or at least by Houston standards, a 4.9 implied run total there. But really one of the better hitting teams versus righties, a 198 ISO, 115 WRC plus versus right-hand pitchers. And Salazar, even though he's a good strikeout guy, he has struggled with power in the past. I don't know about his minor leagues. I assume he's still probably struggling with power. I doubt that's changed much. And Houston also not really owned besides a little bit for Bregman. Everybody else single-digit ownership. Are you getting any Houston?
Yeah, I like them as a full stack. I like that I don't have to go super heavy on them to feel like I have an edge on the field. Because as you mentioned, it's only Bregman that's getting a bunch of ownership. Outside of that, they're a pretty low-owned team. And going up against a guy who hasn't started in the majors, didn't start last year either, correct? And he's always had walk issues, and he challenges hitters. And you've got just good hitters 1 through 7 in this lineup that have been red hot. So I love the full stack. I think Salazar is a guy you full stack against. I don't really want to pick and choose the guys to one off against him though, because he probably can still miss quite a few bats here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate the idea of a one-off Yordan Alvarez because he's going to be 5% owned and nobody wants to pay that $5,600 price for him probably. But he does have a 28% K rate. So if anybody's going to get dusted by Salazar in that top 6, it's probably him. But I mean, the power's there. So I wouldn't hate going to Yordan Alvarez as a one-off. But I agree. I think that you could probably go a variety of ways here. I know I got some one-off Bregmans and I think a little bit stack-wise, but it's a spot here that could blow up. I mean, it's hard to go back into the majors and go against Houston. That is something that Jake and I can speak from personal experience. You don't want to pitch against Houston when you're going into the major leagues, as we both have seen firsthand.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were saying when we were in the majors pitching.
Yeah, right. No, that is what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Could you imagine? Could you think of a worse team? Obviously, any of them would go poorly for either of us, but pitching against Houston, I feel like it would just be throwing up, just watching pitch after pitch going over your head.
Just basically throwing batting practice to them. So
yeah.
It would be a nightmare. I would need a net in front of me so they didn't.
Smash you in the face. Yeah, you can't
basically.
save that beautiful face, Jake.
No, just I don't want that to hurt really bad for weeks. So
Just getting pelted in the whole body, in the face, and the groin.
Like 110 mile an hour exit velocity. Actually, they probably couldn't even hit it 110 because I would only be throwing like 58. So it'd probably be pretty tough to turn on 110 mile an hour exit velocity. So
throwing those old Stevie Wilkerson save kind of category pitches exactly. There. Ownership got updated as well. So if you are a premium member, go check them out now. And if you're not a premium member, use that promo code live before lock to get in there, get half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. So let me make sure that nothing else is weird here. Oh, good. Mike Zeno still really highly owned. So that's
there you go.
I'm with the people and nothing else.
Yeah. Anytime you can go in on a chalk bad hitter, you just got to do it, you know?
He's been terrible this year too. He's got a 60 WRC plus on the year. It's not looking good for Mike Zunino.
Zunino double dong. You should have taken him for your dong pick. I mean, that's what he's for.
Based on volume, I probably should have. It would either be him or Asher Wojciechowski, who would be my double dong pick based on ownership volume.
Yeah.
Speaking of Asher, let's go to Toronto, Jake, because we should talk about them again, even though we did talk about them in general. What are you getting in your crunches of Toronto?
All right, let's look at them. I think they're another team that I'm either kind of full stacking or leaving alone because they're going to be used so much as fillers, and I just hate doing that with the cheap, chalky team that projects well, but not. It's not like they're a way better team to stack than Cincinnati or even Baltimore on the other side. So with them, I'm trying to full stack or kind of avoid them altogether because I think if Wojciechowski is really good, this is a matchup he should have success in. And if it's not, it could be, they get to him early and then all of a sudden you're getting the Baltimore bullpen for 6 innings. And that is really appealing for DFS no matter how good of hitters you are. They still have some good hitters in there. Grichuk and Vlad Guerrero and Smoke. Bo Bichette is projected to be a good hitter. And they're all cheap, so I get that. But I just think they're going a little bit over-owned right now. And that's my beef with them.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Bo Bichette's been really good, as we talked about earlier in that limited sample size. He's had a 400 ISO and 11 at-bats. So if he keeps that up, he'll be one of the best players of all time. But 55% hard contact does bode well for him too, but should come down a little bit to normal, one would hope. And again, the righties here are the ones who are the most consistent. So, and that is one of Wojciechowski's strengths. Wojciechowski. I feel like I've said it 5 different ways throughout the course of this hour. Woj's strengths are against righties here. So if you were going to go with the one-offs or the mini stacks, like I would go to Biggio as a one-off. I think it's pretty interesting given that Woj just had those lefty splits that have been so bad. And Biggio has a 250 ISO going against righty pitchers. Him or Smoke, I feel like those guys, if you were to try to go to a one-off, those would be the ones I'd feel the most comfortable with. But I think your approach about full stacks does make sense. But God, that full stack is so high owned.
It is. So it sucks, but I don't want to miss out on that because if that is the nut lineup construction, you can just pair them with lower owned hitters and get different lineup constructions while also playing them as a chalk because if they do go off, there's a really good chance 2, 3, 4 of these Blue Jays are going to be in the winning lineup.
Yeah, and 2, I mean, there's one obvious pivot that you can make if you are trying to full stack Toronto. Bo Bichette is going to be 3,900 on DK. Freddie Galvis also 3,900, and he's a switch hitter, so he'll be getting that lefty matchup, which has been better. I think that's one that jumps out because Galvis is going to be 1/3 of the ownership of Bichette. And people always want to roster the new exciting guy. They probably remember the dad, Dante Bichette, who was a good hitter in one of the PlayStation MLB games. That's how I remember him mostly. And I think that's, people just like rostering the hot rookie. And if you go to Galvis, that's one way to pivot in a meaningful way. Teoscar Hernandez, too, only 5% owned, and he does have a ton of power.
Yeah, I mean, you can be different playing these guys, too. So just because they're chalk, if you like them, don't listen to me and completely get off or anything. Or just because the top stack tool says they're over-owned, that just means you're going to have to get creative with your Toronto stacks if you do really like them.
People in the YouTube chat asking any weather updates. Bagley 232. I'll give you the credit, even though people keep asking. We see nothing here on the postponement risk on our site at Awesemo, so I'm playing it as it is. I'm not super worried. I think there has been anything else out there that I've seen which has me worried. But Jake, what about you?
I'm playing it straight up. Not worried.
Yeah, I think that seems like the move, and certainly it could blow up, but there really isn't anything concrete enough to go away. And the games like Atlanta, especially for you, Jake, if that's a game that people are worried about, if you are over the field on Atlanta and that game plays as expected and they do go off as you're hoping, you are significantly getting an advantage on the field.
Yeah, no kidding. So hopefully, people, not viewers of this stream, but other people get off. They get worried. So that hopefully they get off of this game, but we'll see.
I don't even know if I should say this because we're a sponsored show now, but Tony S., don't listen to me and get off. Tony S. says, too late for that, Jake. People are really enjoying your sultry, your dulcet tones when you say things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. People are into interesting stuff, so whatever you need.
Whatever gets a view and a like, whatever gets us a view and a like, we'll take, even if it is people quietly stroking themselves to Jake's voice. Who cares? Jake, what about this Cubs St. Louis game? Because the Cubs, EMAC picked Anthony Rizzo from that game for his dong pick, so clearly there is some logic in going there, and they are a decent hitting team, even though you did mention you like Flaherty. Get any Cubs or Cardinals?
I'm getting very little of this game outside of Flaherty. I think maybe I should be a little bit worried about that because Flaherty's ownership has crept up a bit. Looking at my Cubs exposures right here, I guess I'll just pull them up onto the screen so you guys can see. But looking at my 150, at least on DK, what's so funny?
Oh no, I just actually went like
okay. Yeah,
like I was in a commercial enjoying my beverage. My bad.
So yeah, that was a pretty good impression. You should try out for like a Coke commercial or something.
Thank you. That was my calling in life at one point, I'm sure.
So Castellanos is a guy I got to a little bit just cheap and then Baez. So I'm guessing here I just have a couple Chicago like 4-man stacks because I only got a couple shares of all these guys. But they're a talented team. I mean, they're going completely overlooked, and they do have lefties in the lineup. They're not great lefties outside of Rizzo. So I like EMAC's home run pick, but I think that this is a pretty favorable lineup for Flaherty, all things considered.
Also, Brandon Baker asking, are there any different strategies when playing fantasy draft as opposed to DK? I'm dropping a link in the chat. Like I said, I won't at Brandon Baker. But we do have the cheat sheet from you, Jake, for fantasy draft for today. And we do actually have projections now and ownership. Do we have ownership for fantasy draft? I know we have projections for fantasy draft.
We don't have ownership projections for fantasy draft. I don't want to promise anything. So I don't know what the status of that is. Yeah. But they're going to be similar to DraftKings ownership projections. So,
yeah, there are a lot of similarities from a strategy standpoint to how you're playing DK compared to fantasy draft. And of course, if you want to get on fantasy draft, do it now. Go check out the rake-free daily fantasy there. Go to fantasydraft.com and use that promo code AWESEMO. Claim your free 7-day trial because it is rake-free daily fantasy. You need a membership to go as long as you pass certain cash thresholds. So go check it out now. All the details are on their site if you go to fantasydraft.com right now.
We just got an ownership update.
Oh,
okay. Actually 9 minutes ago. So not just now, but let's see here.
Okay. I think that's the one that I have.
Oh yeah, you probably had it.
Yeah, Zunino's still 30%, so that's what matters.
Man,
Max Fried up to 45%. That's fun. That's fun.
Goodness. Yeah, dude, that's worrisome. Like, if I was going heavy on Fried, I mean, man, 45% ownership. I know he's a good play and stuff, but how can you not also be on the other side if you're playing multiple lineups is my thing.
Yeah, I would firmly agree with that. I mean, whenever you see that much ownership, it's the projections aren't great, but there are a few guys who do project fairly well. And and that much ownership, it's probably worth a stab because he has struggled. I mean, he has given up hits. Like I think he does have some real positives to him, but giving up a 280 batting average overall is not anything to sneeze at, honestly, of the size especially.
No, not at all.
Anything else you're getting here, Jake? Are you getting any San Diego? Because they're one I kind of thought I would have more of, and I might have forced in a little bit, but I think they're interesting leverage as well, at least as a mini stack. Are you getting any San Diego or Dodgers going against Lucchesi?
Kershaw's just been really good. I am getting to some Dodgers, specifically Justin Turner is a guy I'm getting to heavily. Where is this Dodgers game? Yeah, Turner, and then Tyler White's just really cheap. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but also Muncy. I know it's lefty, but he hits lefties very well. The guy I'm not getting to a lot is Bellinger. So that kind of annoys me because I want, like, if the Dodger stack is going off, you want to have their best hitter, and he's probably going to get a righty at some point. But good value on the Dodgers. They're also going a little bit over-owned, but I have more of them than Toronto right now. Not right now, I'm going to.
Yeah, and the righties too. I mean, you mentioned Turner at 4,200 getting the righty spot versus Lucchesi, who's given up a 204 ISO to righties and a 4.5 xFIP. He's been much better versus lefties, as you would expect the lefty-lefty matchup there. But yeah, I think Turner, Pollock, and White, I think could be an interesting little trio to have there if you're just going with righties against them. And yeah, and if you threw in a Cody or Max Muncy, and then Will Smith, who's pretty cheap at catcher, I think that could be an interesting little lineup there with ownership pretty spread out for that particular grouping. And actually, it looks like we are locked. So there we go.
Do you want to hear how much Zunino I have on DraftKings?
I hope it's more than 50%.
It is 2%.
Ah, come on.
Not even intentional. So the way I rank lineups is basically just chalk guys that are good values, but they don't project as good raw point plays. I'm usually way under the field, and it looks like even more so. Like Kevon Biggio as well. He's supposed to be 20% owned. On DK, I've got 2 shares out of 150. Jace Peterson as well. So just like all the chalky options, I'm just quite low on.
All right, well, fair. Biggio, I would disagree with Biggio. I mean, and I'm going to disagree with Zunino just because I have no choice but to not disagree with that, with the foot in the ground that I accidentally put in. But yeah, I think that's look, Biggio's in the 2-hole, getting the lefty spot versus Wojciechowski. I think that's not.
It's also an opportunity cost thing with the singular position for Biggio. So I just love Albies there so much at the exact same price point that it's tough for me. It's tough for my ranking process not to get to Albies more often than not.
Brandon in the YouTube chat asking, is Zunino really chalk? If our ownership projections are correct, which I guess that game, I don't know if that game starts. I think that game starts a little bit later. But he's going to be the highest owned position player on the day, it looks like. On DK at least, with 30% ownership or in our projections.
And it's just he's $2,600 at a position that usually sucks. Tonight is no different. Catcher's really rough. You've got Contreras in a tough spot. You've got McCann, okay, but Barnhart, he's also somewhat chalky. Like, there's just not very many options there, so people like to pay down there in general. And he's 2,600 with a team with a 5.8 implied total, so it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and when Zunino positively regresses today and has a triple dong, I'll be at the pay window there with me. My Zunino lineups. We'll be hanging out.
You should have picked him as your home run pick. You're gonna be mad if
no. You
gotta double zip. Correlate your home run pick with guys you're heavily exposed to. That's what I do.
Yeah, usually when they're a guy who's good, I think that would be more the move. And Zunino has not been good this year, but theoretically he is still capable of hitting a home run. I almost went with Chris Davis, honestly, because I just have a gut feeling about him doing it today. But that's even stupider. I got to get up. I can't be taking risks at this point with where I am in the standings.
We still got time. We have 2 months left of the season.
Yeah, I don't know if I might be, my MLB load maybe getting cut down because NFL. I don't know how it goes. I got to finish strong for this last month.
Well, I'll probably be finishing strong, right? Because I'm sure I will be. So I'll be doing all the shows. It'll be great.
You will be. You are one of the picks leaders behind old EMAC. Just punches the old clock every day, makes his pick, and then pops back out.
That's right.
It's EMAC life. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to Fantasy Draft for sponsoring the show. Of course, go to fantasydraft.com and use that promo code AWESEMO to get your first 7-day trial there. It's a free 7-day trial to play all the rake-free fantasy you want in your life. So go check it out now at fantasydraft.com. Of course, go to awesemo.com/join to use that promo code live before lock. Get half off your first month of Awesemo Plus. You have the Night Slate content. Jake loves the Night Slate, so play along with Jake tonight. Get in there. That sounded sensual, but also it is a thing that Jake will be doing later. So go check it out. Go to awesemo.com/join and use that promo code live before lock to get all the Night Slate ownership projections and regular projections to make lineups. And Jake, what's going on for you? Anything you want to plug?
Just thanks to Fantasy Draft. Pretty cool partnership we've got going on with them. It's similar scoring to DraftKings as well. So we talk about DraftKings a lot. A lot of it translates basically directly to Fantasy Draft. But you don't have to play catchers over there if you do not want to. So on a night like tonight, you don't have to play chalk Mike Zunino if you don't choose. It's infield, outfield. So interesting line of construction over there. And just thanks for sponsoring our first show with them.
Yeah, that would be helpful to know. I will play on Fantasy Draft in the future, so I don't have to play Mike Zunino. That is one. Jake, you sold me. You've done a great job as a spokesman for Fantasy Draft.
There you go.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button on the way out. And Jake and Josh will be on live before lock tomorrow. Check me out in the Four Corners video, the short form video, the only one you need. Don't watch those other ones with dudes who suck and who are getting slightly more views than I do. And I'm going to pass that asshole one of these days. So go to subscribe to the channel. Check out the Four Corners tomorrow. And I'll see you guys again soon. Good luck.